HR executive and a global HR influencer, thought leader and eminent speaker. After finishing her postgraduate studies in the temple city of Bhubaneswar, she moved to Mumbai, where she started her journey inclusive of diverse experience in research, teaching, leadership development, consulting, and driving strategic HR practices. She is also a PhD holder, academic gold medalist, and certified coach with over 25 publications. Currently, she is the HR head, Global Generics India in Dr. Reddy's laboratories. Application of human constructs at the workplace is something that ma'am is really passionate about. She brings a unique blend of research rigor and business acumen to bring in transformation and change initiatives of scale. Ma'am, we are truly honored to have you on board with us today. I'm sure all of us are eager to have you speak and enlighten us on the topic, Thriving Through Innovation. Ma'am, I request you to please come up on the stage and share your valuable insights with us.
So, good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
So, how is the Josh?
Hi.
Hi. And I was looking up at the title of your festival. It's such a powerful one, and I shared with a couple of your friends some time back. What does it say? Transcending beyond boundaries. Do all of you agree that when we have boundaries, it's kind of limiting us? It limits us in our thinking, in the way we feel and the way we act, because we sort of decide that this is the periphery around which we want to work or we want to do. But the moment we transcend it, the impossible happens and the best manifests. So today I'm here to share my thoughts and experiences around the topic which is very close to my heart, and it is about, is the slide on? They can see it, but they won't see it here. Okay. No, that's okay. As long as they're seeing it somewhere, it's fine. I told you they see it here, it's better. But it's fine. It's just better, right? No?
Yeah.
Okay, thanks so much. So, the topic is thriving with innovation. So, when you hear the word thriving, what comes to your mind? What is thriving? Is it beyond surviving? Obviously. And what other connotations it has? Does it talk about, what are the words that ring in your mind when you hear the word thriving? Organizations thrive, people thrive, cultures thrive, cities thrive. What is thriving? Yeah? Prosperity. Does it have an element of perpetuity also? As if it is going to go on. Thriving does it have positive connotations or negative? Positive. All positive, all propelling. And it's almost like something is bubbling. Something is really going to happen which is extraordinary. That's why thriving. And today, gone are the days when it's enough for people to survive or organizations to exist. We always want to outperform. And in our bid to outperform, we want to thrive, and that outperformance happens through innovation. So, innovation, is it a key word or is it a key? What do you think it is?
Key.
It's a key. Let me stand here. Well, so it's not essentially only a key word, it's the key to thriving. And why we say it's the key to thriving is because if you have to make things thrive, or in modern day life, these are some of the old ones. Somebody from the back, please. क्या-क्या innovations आपने देखा है?
Lithium-ion batteries.
Okay, very good. What else?
Smartphones.
Smartphones. Earlier, imagine when Dhirubhai Ambani thought of smartphones, probably we didn't even have them, no? At that point in time, it was not something which was existing today. Everybody has a smartphone. And it's almost revolutionized the way we work. What else? And the way we live. What else is a revolution? What about Swiggy's that you order? Zomato, Swiggy? In my days when I went to college and school, we never had Swiggy. Today you guys can, you don't want to have the exciting food, you can just do a Swiggy. Do you do that or not? Okay. So what other innovations? Virtual reality, okay. So you all had online classes for how many? I think full 1 year. Now the first years you all are having. The second years, did you all have online classes?
Yes.
You did, right? Now virtual physical mode. So many ways in which you will work and in which you will start witnessing things which are a result of innovation. So just to name a few words which ring in or come along with innovation. Any other words beyond the ones that you see? There's just a word cloud that I put. Creativity, ideas. What else? Development. Catalyst. What? Some of the words you can see, no? That put up. Any Indian Hindi word for innovation which is coming to your mind? Jugaad. Are you all good at doing jugaad? When you do jugaad, what happens? What do you do when you do jugaad? जो नहीं होता है उसको कर देते हैं आप लोग या सब मिला के कुछ कर देते हैं खिचड़ी पका लेते हैं ऐसे होता है making more with less and the less could be less time, less energy, less resources, it could be anything but you're just making it possible. So when you're doing innovation, you are trying to push beyond the boundaries. You're trying to think way beyond what is possible and the way beyond the obvious. And that's why it's linked to all of this. Creativity, solutioning, needs, skills, source, so many things come about. Now, when I was trying to research and find out which are the topmost innovative companies, and there are quite a few firms which do these kind of rankings, of top innovation companies, this year, these are the companies which are featuring. Can you see the names? So I'm sure they are known for something. Okay, let's take Google. What's Google known for? Search. Apart from searching, what all they have done? Google apps use करते हैं आप? Google Drive, Google GPay, and then Google Maps. What are the other things? I mean, you name it, Google has probably gone into areas from what they started to what they are. It's been a huge canvas that they've traveled, right? And when you think about Google, I would think that they are trendsetters in the field. They've been absolutely innovative. Imagine if Google had stuck on to what they were doing with what they started. They wouldn't have had a market cap like this. Today we're so proud that somebody who is from Indian origin, Sundar Pichai, leads the companies like Google, and practically Google touches every aspect of our life. So that's the way they've taken the entire world by storm. And they have been a truly innovative company and they have been a thriving company. Let's take another example. What about, say, Tesla? How is Tesla different from other automobile companies? Sustainable, green energy also. You think of that when you think of Tesla, or you think of anything else? Good, bad, ugly, what comes to your mind? Stylish. Now, why is Tesla stylish? Are they trying to appease the customers of today? Are they trying to solve a problem of today which the other companies have not thought of? See, if you look at these names of the companies, whether it's Microsoft, Microsoft is known for what? Okay. Which leader do you associate with Microsoft more today? It was founded by whom? Now, what do you associate, which leader you associate Microsoft with? Satya Nadella. Not because he's an Indian, but he's been a leader who's been extremely contributed to growing the company from what it was to where it is now. Not taking away from what Bill Gates did, because he was the very founder, the one who set up this company. But the Microsoft that we see today, that we witness today, has been a result of several innovative practices and not necessarily only attributed to Satya Nadella. However, the culture of Microsoft, I don't know if you've read about it, is extremely, anybody who's had a brush with Microsoft by way of work experience or likely to get in there? So, okay, very good. What did you do? Can you pass on the mic to her, please?
So ma'am, I participated in one of their case competitions.
Okay. What kind of a competition was that? Was that given to, the case was given by them?
Yes, ma'am.
It was a Microsoft case. Okay, thank you. So I want to tell you that at Microsoft, the culture that they have is extremely empowering. They were not always like this, because when Bill Gates was at his best and the head, they were actually trying to be clones of Bill Gates and doing it in a certain manner. But today, the company believes a lot in empowerment and empathy. And Satya Nadella practically re-scripted the company by making it one of the most innovative ones to keep hitting the trillion marks very easily, because they believed in doing the impossible. And they kept on reinventing. There were adversities which came about, but they kept on reinventing themselves and trying to be more socially productive and come up with solutions which were far more meaningful to the customers and the client base that they were solving. So what I want to tell you that if you look at the names that appear here, whether they are trying to cater to a certain customer base or they're trying to solve a problem of the society, there are two things that innovation does. And these two questions stand out for me. What are you solving and whom are you serving? Do these words make sense for you? So what are you solving is, it will always be a problem or it will always be something that you're trying to address. That is, what are you solving for? If they've got that particular challenge right, they will probably be coming out with something which is a solution that others have not thought of before. And that's also what happens in a jugaad. You never had a solution, you make it happen. And whom are you serving is also very important, because either you're identifying your customer base or you're identifying multiple geographies that you're attending, or you're trying to look at a segment that you're catering to, you're trying to serve somebody. And if you look at the definition that I tried to articulate here, does it make sense for you? It's a process of creating value. And when you say creating value, value gets added in any process, either at the input stage, or the throughput stage, or the outcome stage. Somewhere the value gets added. It's not getting depleted. And you're trying to add that by applying solutions which are novel, which have not been thought of. There's a newness in that idea. And even if it's an old idea, you're modifying it and making it relevant for the context. And you're trying to do it in a very meaningful way. So the problem that you're addressing, like, you said stylish for Tesla, or you're talking about sustainability, or you're talking about a world which is more easy, convenient. They're trying to solve something which is probably a problem which is worth solving. So there is value in that. And that is the heart of innovation. Does this make sense to all of you? As I was reading up, this came out for me. And I want you guys to think a little, because I don't want it to be a monologue. The paradigms of innovation. There are different ways in which innovation can manifest and happen. Now if you look at it, can you see the x-axis there? Existing idea, new idea. And can you see the y-axis there? Existing user and the new user. So give me an example of where a company is trying to target an existing idea and an existing user and being incremental in innovation. Give me an example. Any thoughts anybody would like to share?
Updates in the operating systems.
Very good. Updates in the operating system. So the users are the same and you're just trying to do that. Like for example, if Google is a search engine and they try to add more features to the search engine, what are they doing? It's the existing idea and they're trying to provide more modifications for the existing users. So whatever change happens, it's not not huge, it's increment. Now, when you're looking at a new idea and existing user, that change is going to be evolutionary. Could you give me a same example with Google? Chrome or any other apps that they introduce. They could be providing it for existing users, but it's actually new ideas that they're adding on to the basket which is already existing. So therefore, it will qualify to be evolutionary. Now, if you look at, if it's a new idea, new user, then it becomes absolutely revolutionary and hugely transformational. So obviously, your impact of innovation becomes extremely high. Could you give me an example?
Air tags.
Okay. What else?
SpaceX.
That's also a very good example. So we could have a range of ideas which could be never thought of, never heard of, never dreamt of by the company also, or by the ones who are witnessing it, and then it sparks and qualifies to be a very revolutionary idea and becomes a trend-setting one. Others may follow suit, but they are the first ones who are like the pathfinders or the path breakers. Okay, so this actually was put forth by IDEO. You've heard of IDEO? IDEO is a Stanford School of Innovation. Like they focus a lot on design thinking. So they are the ones who, and IDEO in fact, by the way, runs a in-house school of entrepreneurship also, where a lot of entrepreneurs come out. They focus a lot on practice-based managerial education. Now, when you look at executing innovative ideas, it requires a lot of creativity. And when we say creativity, this is something that you can see the butterfly coming about, but this creativity, do you feel happens when the environment is wanting you to be creative? Like for example, when will creative juices flow? When you're under stress, do you get more creative when you're under stress? नहीं होता है? I think होता है. When you are under some amount of stress, do you try to think of a solution which you've not thought of? Some amount of stress is required, some amount of tension is required. If it's absolutely stress-free, you will not be creative. But if it's extremely stressful, again, you will not be creative. So a moderate amount of stress could be good, and the stress has to be something which is which brings out a spark in you, where you want to do better than what you have done, but not something which is overly stressful and demanding. So if you look at whenever you're trying to do a creative problem solving, it's probably, imagine a situation where you participated in a case competition. Does that happen when you want to win that prize? So there's some amount of aspiration, wanting to beat the competition, getting together, putting your collective wisdom, a shared vision, wanting to go for it, gun for it, and that's how you make it happen. So creativity also flourishes in these kind of environments. Okay, let me give you some examples of Dr. Reddy's. I've spoken about other companies. Let me tell you a little bit about my own company. Have you heard of Dr. Reddy's, by the way? They are one of the pharma majors. There are lots of other pharma companies. And you saw one name there, Pfizer, which was there. Worldwide also there are innovative companies. We are primarily a generic company. Have you heard of generic companies? How are they different from innovative companies? Incremental, okay. But what do they do? They don't have, yeah. So innovative companies such as Novartis and others, because you may have heard their name, Novartis also has a huge presence in India, come out with drugs which are original. The generic companies duplicate or, they copy the molecule once the patent is off, and they make medicines which are accessible and affordable to a vast majority of people at a much lower price. So in a market like India, what really helps is when you have drugs which are available at lower cost and also the same quality. So you're not compromising in quality, the drug is doing the work, but at the same time the price or the cost is the one which is easy to afford. So what I'm trying to harp on is, we were set up, Dr. Reddy's was set up by a scientist founder. It's not that we are pure play generic company, we are primarily a generic company. There are drugs that Dr. Reddy's also, molecules that Dr. Reddy's has also come about, but there are far and few, not too many. But I want to tell you that our tagline reads, good health can't wait. And when you say health, is health only related to the pill, which means medicines? It is beyond pill plus. So what has happened is, though we started by making medicines and generic drugs, we are now getting into adjacent areas. So when we say adjacent areas, have you heard of nutraceuticals? Protein shakes? Or when you are trying to manage diseases such as psoriasis or diabetes or other kind of, say, onco, kind of cancer-related therapy areas, you need, kind of treatments which are beyond the medicine, which also help to supplement and sometimes help in restoring certain health conditions. So those have also been the areas that we have gotten into. For example, we have a very interesting product called Selvida. Selvida is a protein drink for diabetic patients and even those who have liver, like cholesterol issues, because they can't do sare protein powders nahi kha sakte hain. So that is specifically for those people who can consume protein powders despite a health condition such as diabetes or cholesterol, because it does not tamper with the sugar level or does not put pressure on their liver. I just want to tell you that. So these are also areas that we have gotten into, and these have been homegrown developed products. So that is where we have been innovative. Also, we are getting into areas such as digital therapeutics. Have you heard of digital therapeutics? Digital therapeutics means app-based treatments. Have you come across apps such as Fitterfly, Healthify? Have you heard of these? What do those apps do? क्या करते हैं? They'll track, they tie you up with a doctor can treat you, and your conditions, parameters can be managed and monitored on a real-time basis, right? So ये क्या होता है? So when you are having digital therapeutics, you get the advantage of digital, but you're also able to take care of the patient who are on sort of a sustained journey. Just to give you an example, suppose you're treating a psoriasis patient. Have you heard of psoriasis? So when somebody has a skin, condition which is stress-induced, it's psoriasis. That's a kind of a special skin ailment. So when you're providing psoriasis or diabetes or an endocrinologist kind of a treatment to any patient, the doctor needs to constantly monitor, but the doctor may not be present at the place where the patient is. So how can the doctor constantly monitor, watch, provide? That kind of a journey is mapped to a digital app and a pill plus. That's why we call it pill plus. That has also been an innovation of its kind, and we have just started baby steps. There's a long way to go. But I want to tell you that these are examples that I mentioned, which have been some have been evolutionary and some have been revolutionary and some have been incremental. Just to give you examples of case in point. But I want to tell you that how these have gotten happen or how these have been made possible have been because of the culture that we've had, which has been one which has encouraged creativity and innovation. At this point in time, I want to pause a bit so that you guys can ask me and then I'll head to this. Are there any questions coming to your mind or any reflections that you have? Any thoughts on so far whatever we've said or spoken? Because I did all the talking, now I want to hear some bit. Yeah.
Ma'am, a while ago you just said that some moderate amount of stress is required to be creative.
Yeah.
So how do you ensure that in an organization the stress is not that too much or not too low?
Thank you. What's your name?
Chinmay Prasad.
Chinmay, it's a very good question. The question that Chinmay asked, all of you all heard. How do you ensure that there's a moderate amount of stress and not too much or too little? So there is no formula to ensure that, but you just need to be very mindful of how much stress is coming your way. So when do people get stressed? When they, so what keeps them excited at work is targets which are stretched ones. Stretched ones means it's not coming too easy, but you have to stretch yourself to get it. If they come too easy, then you will find it extremely easy to go, and after a while, you'll have eustress. Have you heard of eustress? That's the word. You don't feel stress. Eustress. And another is distress. Distress is बहुत ज़्यादा stress. So if it's stretching beyond boundaries or too much, and you're like really sweating it out, what will happen is after a while there will be physical mental fatigue, which will take over the joy of doing work. So for example, at Dr. Reddy's, we focus on 3 words: we ensure that all our employees experience they feel joyful, they feel connected, and they feel efficient at work. That's the culture that we are trying to build. So the moment we feel that their being joyful is being impaired, we realize that they are, under too much of stress. Because they're not joyful anymore. They'll all be glued onto their computers. They don't have time to smile. They don't have time to reflect. They're always working and doing. No time to, stand and stare times. Second is connected. If they're not connected with each other or only working in isolation or silos, that also is a sign of stress. Third, if they're not efficient, and efficiency doesn't mean only short bursts, it should be sustainable. So if they are it should not be that, because there's a review happening, you're extremely efficient. And after that, your efficiency kind of drops. Then also, you are under too much of stress because you did it only to prove a point and not otherwise. So that kind of a feet on the ground and a pulse on the employees will help us know. So we do conduct these pulse surveys. Have you all, those of you who come with work experience, you're aware of pulse surveys, engagement surveys on that, to find out what is. So for example, at Dr. Reddy's, we run a mood meter. It's called heartbeat. Uska naam hai heartbeat. We'll ask questions to employees every day just to find out how are they feeling today, and some questions which nudge them in a direction to, for us to gauge what is the intensity of the emotion that they're feeling and whether it is positive or negative. I'm not saying we absolutely get it right, because as human beings, you know how complex we are. Same आदमी को कभी गुस्सा आएगा, कभी बहुत जोश आएगा, कभी दुखी हो जाएंगे, कभी जबरदस्ती कोई बिठाया, किसी को नींद आ रही है. So all those kind of things, right? So what I'm just trying to make a point here is the energy levels of people keep fluctuating, and it's very difficult to find out when they are going to be stressful versus when they are not going to be. So the manager also plays a very important role to ensure that the right amount of stress comes about, and it's not too much, it's not too little. Okay, any other reflections? But very good question then. Yeah, any other questions? Don't tell me you guys are so quiet here. Yeah.
No.
Yeah. So they decided. पहले से बोल के रखा है ना, इनको ही पूछना है सारे questions. इनको ही पूछना है. So you were assigned this work.
No, that's not the case. But in an organization, most of the amount of stress comes from the deadlines and the size of the problem which needs to be solved. So then both of them have a correlation. Then how do you ensure that as a leader you want the work done in a particular amount of time, and there is a amount of innovation that needs to be done, along with not putting too much stress on the person.
There's so many questions, you're asking me one question now. Now I have to be really innovative to answer this. There are 3 parts to it. I was listening. So first, you said stress happens because of deadlines and too much of work. Do you agree? Deadline is a pressure because time is finite. So whenever time is finite, sometime the time will come. And when you are trying to do the last minute work, which we always do, it's going to be a pressure. So trying to ensure what managers or leaders should do, good managers or leaders should do, is that space out the work and have regular reviews and updates, which are many times proactively sought and not necessarily to judge a person. So when you give a feed forward rather than a feedback, do you understand the difference? Feed forward and feedback. What is feed forward? Given when the work is being done or while it's being done, so that the person can course correct. But when you give a feedback, it is often at the end of the work. So it is like a post-mortem, which is very difficult for the person to course correct or change. Have you heard of people saying कि appraisal खराब गया, appraisal में I got a bad score, I did not meet expectations? That means that at the end of the year, it was proven that you weren't good enough or your performance was not up to the mark. It did not measure up to a standard set. However, if you are given regular, ongoing feedback, and if you've done Drucker's model, Drucker का किया है, PDCA, plan, do, check, act. It's a very simple cycle. So whenever goals are given, it should be planned jointly, it should be checked periodically. The action should not be left only to the employee. but the role of the manager is paramount in terms of being a confidant, coach, guide, wherever, to help during the performance cycle and not necessarily after it. And also, act means whatever are the loose ends to be tied, it continues like a cycle. It is not a linear but a cyclic kind of a process. If that is done, then people will work in a more collaborative manner and not necessarily in a taking order kind of an approach. So the managers should create an environment where people get the deadlines, the balance between the timelines and the quantum of work. Quantum of work I want to spell out. Innovations often dry up or don't happen because people are left doing the routine. Do you agree? If there's a lot of pressure to keep on doing the routine and the same stuff every day, you might one find it extremely repetitive, monotonous and boring, and secondly, you may be only caught up doing the same thing and delivering the same thing without taking time out to reflect and be creative and innovate. So therefore, it's important that there is work-life balance, there are times for rest and reflections. Otherwise, people will not be able to do it. Getting one person to do too much leaves that person with little room to change or make innovations. So getting people to work collaboratively often helps. Because when they work collaboratively, they will leverage on the strengths and weaknesses of each other as a team. And that will probably help solve for innovation in the space of crunch of timelines and work pressures. I don't know if I've answered your question. I'll try to give you a perspective. Okay, now that this quota is over, shall I ask anybody else this time, or he's the only one who talks? Yeah.
Hello ma'am,
What's your name, please?
I am Bhavna Gloria from the BM batch of 24. Ma'am, recently you said something regarding efficiency, that efficiency should not happen in short bursts, rather it should happen in a sustainable manner.
Yeah.
So ma'am, when we talk about innovation, should we also see being innovative, relating it to be sustainable, and if so, how would that be?
Okay, so good. Thank you so much for the question. I think what you're asking me is, can a person or continue to be innovation all the in an innovative mindset all the time? That kind of a thing. Okay, so do you all agree that innovation is sustainable? I mean, can you always be in an innovation kind of a mindset? Is it possible? No. Are some people more innovative than others?
Yes.
Why? Own creativity, imagination. What qualifies to be innovation can be just making small changes also. We discussed incremental innovation is possible. Every time you can't come about doing something path-breaking. Let's take Swiggy for example. Swiggy started by doing what? Only delivering food, right? Now what are they doing? What are the innovations? Swiggy Genie, Instamart hai? What other features they have? So many things that they have. So I want to tell you that you will have to constantly be in the quest of experimentation and add-on to make the value add, as I told you. Remember I told you about the word value. So value has to keep accruing, and the context changes. So the more attuned you are to the context. How did Swiggy Genie come about? Because Swiggy guys would have figured out that definitely you need sometimes, especially during COVID times, you needed somebody to come and probably deliver, and that made created ease for people. So what I want to tell you is, whenever you're attuned to the context, you will see opportunities where you can be innovative. Can we be forever in that mindset? Yes, we can be. So how do you develop an innovative mindset? I've got this here. You develop an innovative mindset by always having a growth mindset. A growth mindset means you're trying to be better than yesterday. You're trying to be better than the benchmark that you set out for yourself or benchmark of anybody else. Like for example, if you feel that you've achieved a certain top line, bottom line, you want to get better than that. If for example, have you heard of balanced scorecard? Like if you've achieved your financial parameters, now you want to focus on environmental parameters. So whenever you want to be in quest for excellence, then you start having an innovation mindset. So efficiency is getting better with the resources that you have. Having an efficiency mindset is also possible, and that to me is a lot around what is the heart of a guy who is innovative. Now let's look at the entrepreneurial mindset. What is entrepreneurial mindset? What's an entrepreneurial mindset? Do you need to become an entrepreneur in order to have an entrepreneurial mindset? You can become an entrepreneur or you can have an entrepreneurial mindset even when you're working. You can, right? You're working in an organization, you're being part of a committee, you're running something, you can still continue to have an entrepreneurial mindset because your whole endeavor is focused on generating value and taking risks and doing more with less and trying to come out with solutions which are creative and trying to value add in the context. That's why you are displaying an entrepreneurial mindset. So you end up becoming far more, I would say, sustainable in the way you demonstrate innovation. Skill sets, I want to focus a little more on the skill set part of it and tell you a little bit about Dr. Reddy's. Can you see the 4 Ds that I put? What are the 4 Ds? Domain, digital, data, and design thinking. And I'll come back to culture, but I want to spend a little bit on this 4 part of it. What is domain? What's domain? Area of expertise. Whatever is your area of expertise, you need to do that well. And Dr. Reddy's, we launched a campaign called the 3D, and of course it has the foundation of domain. Everyone working needs to know the domain very well. Without that, your innovation cannot happen. So any efficiency that you want has to happen on the lever of the good foundation, number 1. What is digital? All your AI, ML, RPA, robotic process automation, any technology that you use to solve business problems or work-related issues is what qualifies to be digital. What is the third one there? Data. What is analytics? Meaning of patterns. Is it only past patterns or you also do predictive analytics? You also do predictive analytics. It is no longer heuristics, you're doing predictive analytics, you're looking at high-end statistics application using the best of software. I don't know if you guys use structural equation modeling or SPSS. Do you use that? So those are also used. You use statistical techniques such as cluster analysis, discriminant analysis. In market research, we use a lot of this in pharma companies. And we believe that the power of scenario planning, when you're looking at scenario planning, you're looking at multiple regressions, you're looking at multiple variables which will help you come about for a meaningful solution. And you're trying to be very innovative because you're trying to play around with those variables. Which market should I launch? Which product should I go in for? What variables? How much manpower should I use? Which kind of manpower do I need? So, every segmentation, every positioning, every kind of product launch is going to be very different. For example, our Omaze is very different from a NICE. I was sharing before I came in with some of your friends there that, for Dr. Reddy's, one of our biggest markets regionally, we are a company which started in Hyderabad. Which region gives us the maximum market cap? From where do we get within of India? Can anybody take a guess? Those whom I discussed with don't answer, the others can. Can you take a guess? Anybody? Yeah, can I hear some voices? Delhi? Maharashtra, okay. Bangalore. What are you saying? It's West Bengal. I also didn't know why and how, but I'm telling you the reason. When I saw this, I was a little amazed, like how come it's West Bengal? In West Bengal, Dr. Reddy's, we get a maximum number of medicines sold. Maybe people congregate more in numbers, a lot of community flavor there. Somebody today told me that in Bengal, people have a habit of consuming medicine sometimes without prescriptions. So it could be multitude of factors. But I can tell you that Dr. Reddy's presence maximum, not just Dr. Reddy's, most pharma companies get a lot of their revenue from the eastern part of India, including Bengal and Bhubaneswar. Okay, that's how it happens. So I want to tell you that. So just to give you a fact that this was an insight. And what is the difference between a data and an insight? Insight is something which you draw as an inference. And sometimes it's not just quantitative data which will tell you you need to do a qualitative probe to get more out of the data, right? That's an insight. So, like for example, the way our Omaze cells. Omaze, you know, have you heard of Omaze as a drug? What is it used for? Omaze? Anybody has heard of it? Acidity. Acidity के लिए people eat Omaze. The way Omaze cells, which is, it's like an OTC. OTC, you understand? The channel of buying is to, yeah. But whereas if you go through a prescription drug, which is an oncology, or which is in a very, a cardiovascular segment, it's going to be very different. Now, we recently did some BD acquisitions, you know. We took, have you heard of the company called Wokhard? It is also, a company that we acquired. And when that BD deal happened, we've taken even some brands from Novartis, from Lupin also we bought a couple of brands. Every time there is a merger and acquisition happening, which is inorganic growth and not the organic growth. Organic growth is when the company is just growing. Inorganic is when you are trying to acquire companies or getting into synergies with other companies. There could be in-licensing, there could be out-licensing, there could be different ways. Why am I giving you all these examples? These are examples of innovation. These are examples of growth. How do you look at growing your base business? One, by introducing new products, or like I told you, existing customers, or it could be different things for the, you add on that way to your portfolio. But you can also do these kind of growth stories also, which will add on to your company's bottom line and top line, and also help you be innovative and growing. Because for every synergy, you're able to leverage the advantage of it. Are we all getting whatever I'm discussing? Now, design thinking. Design thinking, have you had this as an elective, or have you all done something around design thinking?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, you heard of it for sure? So, you had a full course around design thinking. So what's the whole genesis around it? Could you just, please can we give it the mic? How do you think design thinking is useful for innovation?
As to what I have understood, it's more customer centric. As to we try to look into the big core of the problem, which the customers or the people for whom we are looking for solving the problem, what the problem they are facing. And then it's more qualitative as such. We get the insights, and it's more qualitative than quantitative. So that was the one thing which
Thank you so much for your response. What's your name, please?
Sudhanshu.
Thank you. I want to tell you that it's not essentially only qualitative, but the part that you said at the beginning is very right. It targets the human centricity part the most. The customers, for whom are you solving it for? This is, so there have been a lot of works which have happened both at Stanford, which is the IDEO school. I mean, there, it's also happened in Michigan. Have you heard of Michigan? Michigan school also. It's also happened there. So, I mean, there are lots of, MIT also has done a lot of work around design thinking, but I'm taking the model around Stanford, which is IDEO school's model. I really like it. The first one, it starts with empathize. What is empathizing? Any innovation that happens, I told you, whom are you serving for and what are you solving? So this empathy is at the heart of any innovation. It should benefit either the internal customers or external or some party in question. And that is why what he mentioned, that human-centeredness, knowing your customer, that is very important. Second is how clearly you are able to articulate what is the problem that you are solving for. If in innovation you are not able to identify the opportunity or the problem that you are trying to solve for, you will not get it right. Because you may try to approach it from various lenses, but you will not know what exactly you are doing. Innovation is not a fad. It's not a fashion. It's not like jumping into the bandwagon because everybody else is doing it. It is doing it because you think it will add value to what you are trying to solve for. So that is why the defining becomes important. Third one is ideation. Ideation is collecting as many ideas as you can and looking at it from various perspectives. That's the time when you need to have a growth mindset. You need to enhance your capacity and capability, get in more people on the table, brainstorming. Have you heard of these words? Brainstorm? many times you guys are wanting to solve something alone versus doing it collectively. Do you all get a aha moment when somebody else says something and you add on, you second it, and a new idea comes about, or an enriched idea comes about? That is ideation. What is prototyping? Coming out with a solution which is small scale and which is first time. But when you prototype, what's the advantage? Like you do a pilot. You do it in small batches or you do it small scale. I'm sure the Googles of the world, like in pharma, we do it so regularly. My previous organization, Larsen and Toubro, that I worked for, it's a huge conglomerate. And various industries it has, from smart world to heavy engineering to infotech, to so many companies. Everywhere they would prototype. Because prototyping is very important before you scale up and commercialize. And then you kind of test it with the right audience. Like, you do a A/B testing in marketing. You all have done A/B testing. You try to find out, you may take a control group and an experiment group and try to find out with the, that group that you're testing whether it's working or not. So some kind of testing is required, which is knowing whether it's working. And imagine if you, in the test, find that it's not. What do? You again may need to go back to either empathizing or defining or ideating, depending on where the changes need to be brought about, where the tweakings need to happen. So the question that you asked about an efficiency and sustainability in innovation, if somebody gives up at a stage of prototyping and testing and say, I've got it all, or I know it all, it won't suffice. In fact, Satya says that it's not a I know it all. It is about I want to learn it all. So every time you are learning, it's not necessarily learning through textbooks. It's learning through experiences. It is learning through application. So innovation happens when you learn through. Some of your friends were sharing with me that this is the first time after 2 years that this festival is happening physically, no? So why don't you guys clap for yourself? Just give yourself a big clap. The applause is for the hard work, but the applause is because you didn't have a textbook to follow through. I'm sure your seniors would have guided you in some ways, but they could not show you in action what it is to run a festival of this magnitude. Because you didn't have a prototype to see for yourselves. Many things you would have learned on the ground. You would have learned it while you were doing, you would have experimented, you would have been innovative. And you would have done all the things that I'm telling you right now. And for the juniors or the first years who are witnessing it, I'm sure from the prototype of this type and the testing that you've done, you will have a lot of learnings to go back and empathize and put it full cycle on, and that is innovation. That is the power of innovation. So all the inciting, all the experiences, all that we talk about is also done in everyday work life by all of us. So just open your minds to see where innovation happens, and you will find that each one of you has been innovative probably every day. Some days you are being more innovative than others. Some people have inspired you to be more innovative. Some environments also have brought out the best in you. What you did in your undergrad days versus what you're doing now. Some of you are with work experience versus now. There have been moments where you have been more innovative. What has those moments led up to? Maybe more meaningful action? How has it been because of the culture? Maybe XIP creates a culture which brings out the best in you. Aren't your classes at timings which are sometimes a little staggered through the day, more demanding? But trust me, all the stress brings out somewhere the best. You start innovating, you start seeing new facets of you which you have never ever witnessed. The more diversity in your class, the more batches, the kind of, suppose you sit at a table, all of you come from different backgrounds, you will start learning from each other. Does that make sense, what I'm telling you? Now let's go back a little to this part, the culture part of it, which I wanted to say. The culture, so where does innovation thrive? And I'm just coming to an end, so I won't talk much about it. But the culture of innovation thrives in organizations. Like the recipe, if you ask me now, what is that recipe? When people are empowered. What do you mean by empowerment? What's empowerment? Given the freedom to do, decide, when you have power, that means you're empowered. When you have the power, do you live up to your expectations? That's what I do. Yes? responsibility. Who said this? Yeah. So when you are empowered, you will also take up the responsibility and you live up to that expectation. So now organizations are trying to empower teams. It's no longer very hierarchical. We try to create organizations which have less layers. Also collaborative, which is beyond boundaries. We're trying to, for example, in Dr. Reddy's, we have our branches in North America, Europe, different parts of the world, emerging markets, so many countries present. There is a lot that we can learn from the teams of those countries as well. And we do that constantly on an everyday basis. And inclusive. Have you heard of diversity and inclusion? I'm a huge champion for diversity and inclusion. There's a lot of power in that. Because the more diverse people are, whether it's backgrounds, whether it is cognitive diversity, gender diversity, generational diversity, they definitely leverage the strengths of each other, and the result that manifests or comes about is far more enriched. And of course, last but not the least, the risk appetite. If people are allowed to fail, they will dare to fail and they will learn from the mistakes. Any company worth the reckoning, whether it's all the innovative companies that I have put on the board, if you see one success, there have been several failures, several design thinking prototypes and testing, etc., that would have happened before you saw that one hit which has come up to you. So there would have been so many of those things which would have been near misses. So fail fast and learn faster. That's the key. So I'll just quickly move with this. This is a little capture of what it is. Dr. Reddy's, this is our cultural framework. We call it Aspire. I'm just focusing on the I part of it because there's no time to do the full Aspire framework. All our people across the organization, whether it is our operators in plants or our sales force in the field or leaders in the organization, for them to be innovative, we encourage them to follow this culture every single day. Whether they are being watched or they are not being watched. So the I part, I just want to read that out so that I know you can see. We drive patient and customer-focused innovation. So whom are we solving for? For our patients, for our customers. And in all areas using cutting-edge science. Whether it's generic, the generic drugs or it's the adjacency areas, like I told you about the nutraceuticals or the digital therapeutics where we are trying to make our early inroads. It is all using deep cutting-edge science because pharma is rooted in science, technology and digital tools. But if you look at this innovation part, it is linked to the other parts, aspirational growth mindset, which we spoke about. Speed and rigor of execution, which she mentioned about efficiency. It's like a habit. Every time you have to keep on doing it so that you get better at it. People leadership, which you asked about the quantum of, how much is of stress, etc. Then result driven. There has to be passion for getting and seeing something which is going to be very energizing for everybody. And last but not the least, excellence focus. So all these tenets are actually linked. And this makes the I come alive. I would like to end it with a quote of a man that I really admire because he's considered to be a stalwart of innovation. For the life he lived and for the trend-setting efforts that he did, Steve Jobs, very beautifully he had said that at the end of it, the dots will connect. Have you heard of this? At the end of it, somewhere the dots will connect. Innovation, we don't know where it starts, where it stops. It's a journey, it's an endeavor, it's a quest. It's one of passion, it's one of mind, it's one of matter. It has no beginning, it has no ending. That's how its story continues and goes on. Innovation is the ability to see change, see any change as an opportunity and not as a threat. So every change, every challenge is going to move us from our comfort zone and take us to one of discomfort. And in that change from comfort to discomfort, we will start a spark that will happen in our minds and manifest in our actions. And that, to my mind, is innovation. So I'd like to leave you with this. And I hope I could trigger your minds about things that you knew and things you've learned, but some things that you will connect and some dots that you will reflect on. Wish you loads of success in your journey ahead. Be innovative. Keep the flag of creativity flying high no matter where you go. whether it's here in the alma mater of XIMB or outside. Whenever you strive to do something different and be beyond, it is going to be innovation. That's going to be good. Thank you so much. So I've spoken a lot. Now, other than the two people who asked me, and a few people who said some things I haven't heard too many voices, I have some time and you want to ask me any questions, you can quiz me or ask me. I'm happy to hear more voices. I'm happy that I have got invited for this opportunity. It's been wonderful.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for this exciting speech. I now request the audience to kindly ask any questions they may have for Swati ma'am.
This time you're passing on the mic. Playing an innovative role. Okay, are there any reflections, if not questions? What did you learn? Can I get two takeaways from the entire discussion? I don't want questions, if at all there aren't any, it's fine. Any reflections from the sessions? At least one takeaway that you will think or remember from today's session. Could I get to hear that?
Good afternoon, madam. I am Antarish Patnaik from XIMB BES of 2024, and there were three takeaways I can reflect upon. First one was how innovation occurs, the different types of innovations, and there are two aspects of it. There should be some healthy amount of stress in the work, and whenever we are innovating, we should consider the people around, and that involves people leadership and design thinking.
Thank you so much.
And ma'am, I have a follow-up question that I have heard about thought leadership.
Yeah.
What is thought leadership and is it different from people leadership?
Oh, that's a very good question. I can end this. So it's a good question. You can sit down. Thank you so much. Well, they are linked, but who's a leader? A leader is a relative term. A leader is one who has followers, the people who look up to the person, him or her, and that's what makes the person a leader, right? So when you're saying somebody is a thought leader, you probably thought of things which are more in the space of theory and which could be practiced. So every theorist whose practices have been implemented is a thought leader. Okay? Now, when you're a people leader, you need not be coming out with a new thought or a new paradigm, which is adding to the body of practices or theory existing. However, you may be inspiring people at work, so that makes you a good people leader. So for example, you may have somebody who manages people very well at work, has a 10-member team or a 2-member team, and is a good people leader. Okay, so that's a difference. Can thought leaders be good people leaders? Yes, they can be. Can good people leaders be thought leaders? Yes, that they can be. So it's like this. Yeah, any other takeaways and questions?
Ma'am, I'm Bhavna. Ma'am, I had a question. Since the beginning of our MBA journey, we have been taught about.
It's okay, I can tell you.
Okay, so we are learning a lot about working in groups and working with people, because at this stage, leadership is not something that we do on a complete basis. But my question is, apart from trying to inculcate the capacity of being innovative ourselves, how can we influence others, for example, our teammates as well, to be innovative? And if we can, how do we do about it at the capacity of a student?
Okay. So thank you, Bhavna, for this question. First thing is, it's a very good one that you are thinking about as an individual contributor. You have the capacity to control your innovation. How do you inspire others and rub off your innovation with others? Two ways to do it. One is inquiry serves as a great nudge for innovation. The moment you ask people questions, they start thinking differently. people for innovation. Second is through actions. Whenever you do something which is innovative, I'm sure it will serve to motivate and inspire others. Third, when you try to collaborate and come out with a solution which is more consensus driven, not necessarily only your point of view, then also it is actually an amalgamation. And when I say amalgamation, it will have a mix of all ideas. It's like a potpourri, what will result. And that is where it's called a melting pot, because some of your opinions will diffuse, some of others will come about. The more open you are, the more enriched it will be. And third part that you mentioned about you being a student and how you can be innovative, I consider myself to be a student for life. We are all students. We're learning from each other and learning something or the other throughout life. Maybe a formal student, yes, but throughout life also you need to have that student mindset, okay, to be learning. And you can be innovative both yourself and also with others. You'll be surprised to know that more innovation happens when you're working with others. Yeah, anybody, anything else apart from Bhavna? Yes.
Good evening, ma'am. I'm Parth Naglani from XMBBA batch 21-23. So, what changes can be made in the Indian education system with regards to entrepreneurship mindset and innovation so that we create more job creators rather than job seekers?
Yeah. Thank you, Parth. So, I want to tell you that today's B schools, management B schools have special courses around entrepreneurship. For example, Indian B schools, IIM Ahmedabad offers one. SP Jain has a program around entrepreneurship, family-owned businesses also. So a lot of entrepreneurs today are ones who take on to entrepreneurship right from immediately after their B school days also. In fact, when they are in the B school also, they start up something on their own, whether it's blogging or running something, even that entrepreneurship spark is there. So what can educational institutes do in that regard? One, they can offer formal courses around entrepreneurship. Secondly, encourage initiatives where you have, I'm sure you have an entrepreneurship cell. You must be having one. Entrepreneurship cell where certain incubation of ideas can happen. And I just gave you an example of IDEO, which is actually a Stanford initiative where it's an entrepreneurship cell sort of, where several ideas have been put into action and implemented. So whether it is schools worldwide or it is the reputed institutions here, they sort of spark entrepreneurship by encouraging, by way of rewarding entrepreneurs and also offering specialized courses. Even calling startup entrepreneurs to come and share ideas is also a good way. So, I mean, that would also go to inspire many others. Okay? Yes.
Hello ma'am, I'm Sasuma Patta from XMBBA.
I didn't get your name properly.
I'm Sasuma Patta from XMBBA.
Okay,
I mean, one of the slides you focus on rapid prototyping. So when you are developing different prototype models, so what should you take care when you are making incremental changes?
What should you take care of?
When you are making incremental changes.
Okay. So, when you are doing rapid prototyping, rapid means fast. Prototyping means coming out with a trial model or a pilot model. Now, instead of waiting for the final solution to emerge, you should do rapid prototyping to find out whether it's working or not. The benefit of doing it is you don't have to wait till you have the perfect answer, but you have an evolving answer, like that. So, when you want to bring about incremental changes, which is small changes, a rapid prototyping may not be required. You may need a rapid prototyping more when it's the evolutionary or the revolutionary kind of a change. Incremental changes will be a kind of a prototype in that sense. Okay? A rapid prototyping is very iterative. You understand what's iterative? Something which is tentative, almost there. That's where when I gave an example of scenario planning or other market research models, they're extremely useful. So you set out with a hypothesis or a proposition and you try to test it and see if it's working or not. So that is how you come about and do a rapid prototyping. So when it's not working, you may want to change it or alter whatever you started. Sometimes you may end up modifying your very problem statement when you see that, okay, it's not solving for what I set out to do. I need to probably go and redefine the problem in the first place. So there are two kinds of thinking: divergent thinking, convergent thinking, and sometimes it's also an abductive kind of thinking, which is a more divergent and convergent. So you may need to use different kinds of logic in the way you solve a problem. Okay. Yes.
Hello, I'm Auditorium Patnaik. You told about the term scenario planning.
Yeah.
Scenario planning be used to develop cross-functional team skills in organizations like the product team and R&D team, and some different departments collaborate. So can it be used?
Yes. So whenever a scenario will always have a play out of multitude variables, not a single linear variable, right? Because a scenario will have some factors which are finance related, some factors which are marketing related, some HR, like that. In fact, some factors which are internal, some factors which are external. If you read up more about scenario planning, I don't know if you've done stochastic modeling. Have you done stochastic? Have you done stochastic?
We have heard of some stochastic.
Okay, you can read about it, but there are different kinds of, so you may even give some weightages to factors which are outside. That is also possible. But whenever you do scenario planning, the better your, identification of multitude of variables in the scenario is done, the better understanding of context is, and the better your solution will be. So if you're trying to involve the concerned people, from various functions, and then come out with a scenario that you're trying to address, the answer will be far more, like I'll just give you a case in point. You can sit down, I'll give you a case in point. Suppose we're trying to do cost optimization. In my organization, we're often asked to do that. Cut down costs. Which is the easiest way to cut costs? Manpower costs. Jokes apart, you can cut down promo costs, which is marketing costs. Okay, you can cut down manpower costs, you can cut down fixed costs, you can cut down operating costs. And finance will have done all this work. So you will try to look at so many costs that you will want to look at, your capex, your opex, etc. So what I'm trying to say is, whenever you do a scenario planning, you try to imagine which ones you will alter in order to come out with a perfect solution to the scenario that you're grappling with. And sometimes the scenario may be similar to the past one, sometimes it may be a complete different from the past one. Therefore, you have to imagine what are the kind of weightages that you will give to. I was, thinking that, for example, in Orissa, because you've had Naveen Patnaik, who's been there as the chief minister, the same political regime for quite a considerable period of time. Do you think the scenarios that have played out here in terms of infrastructure development has made it easy? It has, because you've had a similar political regime. But there are factors which have also been changing. Nobody imagined the COVID will come. Nobody ever imagined the pandemic will hit us so hard. There are some industries like pharma which continued to serve patients, and we had great business during COVID times. We were badly hit after the COVID times. There were other businesses which had reversed. Okay? So I'm just giving you examples. So what will play out as a factor which is more important versus less important will be a result of various things, and that's what scenario planning is. I'm sure, I don't want to get into details, but you might have done things like factor analysis. Have you done factor analysis? When you're looking at data reduction, there are different factors, and you try to find out which are those key dimensions which will impact your scenario. So yes, to your question, whether cross-functional teams can do better scenario planning, yes, we always do that when we handle businesses. My HR solutions are seldom coming only from HR people. They come more from business. In fact, I think more like a business leader and less like a HR leader. I'm always thinking about the context that I'm sort of solving for. So HR leader second, business leader first. Yes. You know the joke about Einstein's driver? I'll just end it with that. I just can't draw. You know about that joke? Some of you might be knowing about it. You know it, right? It's a very famous one. Should I say that or should I not? Just thinking. So it just happened that in those days there was no internet, and not many people had heard of the great innovative genius Einstein. I mean, they had heard about him, but they'd not seen him. Okay, they'd heard about him, and that's why he got invited to various universities and places where he could go and give a talk. But they'd not really seen him. And he would often go and speak about his theory, E is equal to mc squared. What's that theory all about? Theory of relativity. And Einstein would get bored. Like same, वही lecture जाके देना है या बार-बार वही देना है. So it so happened that he was invited to one of those universities which was quite far away. Einstein को बिल्कुल मूड नहीं था जाने का. So I just don't feel like going. And Einstein's sole companion and very steady companion was his driver, because he would always take him along, go to the particular university, and he had to travel long distances. So he told his driver, let's call it off. I don't want to go. Let's try to just bunk it. So the driver said, you'll get a bad name. They would have made all arrangements. We can't do this here. I mean, you are Einstein, tomorrow nobody will call you. So he said, let's do one thing. The driver said, let's do a swap. I will go as Einstein and you go as a driver. As it is, you are wanting to bunk. No, you are not in a mood to go. So Einstein said, are you crazy? You would go as Einstein and you are driver. You don't even know anything about theory of relativity. You will go and give a lecture. Then what do you think it's so easy? He said, look, you got bored speaking so many times. I have got bored hearing so many times. I know even the comma, full stop, the expressions, the examples that you will give to the T. When you talk about your E is equal to mc squared, trust me, I can go and deliver. So Einstein said, this guy is sounding crazy, but he's being so innovative, let me give it a try. So he actually went as driver, and who went as Einstein? Driver. Went up to the dais, just as I came, started giving the lecture with all the passion. Einstein sitting in the audience was really amazed. My man Friday is doing such a great job. He's, holding the audience spellbound. He's speaking with a kind of gravitas, with a kind of science depth and domain, and he was like sitting there in the audience and thinking that how much I underestimated the power of this common man. That kind of a thing. And then questions also came about, like you guys are asking me questions. The driver was very smart. He had heard some of the questions also, no? He knew some of the answers. He could also answer those questions because same topic के questions क्या आएगा? Same fact का ही आएगा ना? Finally, one question came about which the driver had never heard. It was a tough one. He had to think, but he was so innovative. He said, "It's a very good question, but a very simple one. Even my driver sitting in the audience can answer this." So who was the driver? Obviously, it was Einstein, and Einstein got up and answered it. The reason why I shared it with you, even if you've heard this several times, innovation, some of you all said incremental. It's a lot about common sense. You don't really need to be out of the world to be innovative. Small things, using the power of your common sense, judgment, also you can be very innovative, like Einstein's driver was. So big hand for Einstein and a big hand for his driver. So let's end it on a humorous note. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, and lots of powerful energy to all of you who walk back with smiles and all the innovation halos around you. I'm going back with a lot of learning and a lot of humility from the kind of questions that you guys asked. It's been wonderful. Wonderful. Thank you so much.
On behalf of Team BES, I would like to take the opportunity to thank you for your valuable time and sharing these wonderful insights. I'm sure each one of us present here has a lot to take back home from your speech. I would also extend a warm vote of thanks to our sponsors, special partner G Group and our refreshment partner Montanese. I would also like to extend a vote of thanks to our lovely audience for keeping up the enthusiasm and keeping the session engaging throughout. Ma'am, we would like to extend our heartfelt gratitude with a small token. I request the core team to please come up on the stage and felicitate ma'am. speaker takes our leave. Thank you.